introduce yourself. Yeah.
Yes, Buddy Moore, member of the MAAC.
Freya. Phyllis Glover.
Phillips Glover, Vice Chair.
Thank you so much. Okay. Next item on the agenda, old business web page development. Shana, are you able to give us an update on that?
Sure thing. The webpage is under development. We've built out many sections of information, including ways to engage with the MAAC, ways to respond to and attend our public meetings, as well as some blogs on hot topics that we often discuss in the MAAC public meetings. We're waiting on the chair to make final adjustments to these updates, and with her approval, we hope in the next meeting to share the website with you all during our meeting. So without Heidi, I don't have all that much to update on that. When she arrives, we might circle back to this topic. That's all right.
Great.
But if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them and take note of anything that I need to follow up on.
Thank you. Perhaps we should wait until the others come before we do a budget update. Then the next item on the agenda, new business. I'm going to look over all of the items in new business and figure out which would be best to begin. If everybody is comfortable with that. Okay. New business traffic signal optimization project phase 4 discussion from DDOT. Then Connecticut Avenue Northwest reversible lane study and operations from DDOT. That will be a 14 item. Then Spain shared scooter company inclusion initiative discussion. Is anybody from Spain on the call?
This is Caesar. Spin was invited, but I don't know if they accepted the invitation.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's a small discussion that we can initiate, or once Ms. Case comes in, we can initiate that as well. So I'll prefer to leave that to the end.
Yes, of course. Mm-hmm. Buddy, it fail. Would you be comfortable beginning the discussion of the traffic signal optimization project?
I think that goes to, does that go to you, Heather?
This is Caesar one more time. Traffic signal optimization project. We have our DDOT staff here for the meeting. Mr. Anthony Dinkins, the consultants on the project, Josh Wolfram. I think I'm missing Mr. Fitch, but they're here for the.
Thank you, Caesar. This is Anthony Dinkins from DDOT. Thank you guys for inviting us to your meeting. What we're going to primarily discuss with the MAAC community is some of the traffic signals work that DDOT has been doing, in particular with our optimization program that has been going on for the last few years, as well, which includes a lot of the age-friendly community issues that we, as we go along with the optimization program, we take in consideration what is some of the signal timing improvements that we can make as it addresses some of the issues that you guys may have. So with that said, I'm going to let Joshua Wolfgram give a brief presentation with regards to some of the work we have done and what we are currently doing. Joshua.
This is Caesar. Josh, before you start, Heather, this is kind of like an introduction to what we're going to be discussing tomorrow as well, just in case misfoot. So Joshua, take it away.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. I had a few slides to share. For some reason, I'm not able to share my screen right now, though. I don't know if that's...
You can try now. You should be able to now.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. So please let me know if the presentation is coming through.
You are viewing Josh Wolfgram's screen.
Great.
I can see your screen. It
All
looks
right.
fine.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today about the citywide optimization program and what we've been working on. So just kind of a high-level overview of the project. It's an ongoing effort to optimize and enhance the more than 1,600 signals that are in the district's right-of-way. We're looking at large-scale implementation of multimodal enhancements, including LPIs and pre-timing. We're implementing various improvements and update timings for bicycle and transit progression, as well as retiming the signals to reduce vehicular congestion. The project is set up to retime on a rolling basis, so we've divided the district up into 4 networks, which I've shown on the left of the screen, optimizing one of these networks each year and continuing in a rotating basis. Round 1, we're in the second round of the project currently, and so round 1 was conducted from 2010 to 2017, the first time optimizing the signals. Round 2 began in 2018, and we're currently 3/4 of the way through that. So network 1 was completed in fall 2018, shown here on the bottom of Navy Yard, Wards 7 and 8. Network 2 completed in the center of the screen, fall 2019, the downtown area. Network 3, the Northwest region, completed in fall 2020. And then Network 4 is what we're currently working on, Northeast and Capitol Hill, anticipated for this coming fall of 2021. And that's on the right side of the screen. I just wanted to touch on a few of the enhancements we've been making. The first of these is leading pedestrian intervals. If you're not familiar, leading pedestrian intervals are a signal timing head start tool that gives the walk display to pedestrians a few seconds before the vehicles get the green indication. I've shown that here, kind of circling the red signals and circling the walk signal to show pedestrians in the crosswalk before the vehicles are actually allowed into the intersection. So we provide some dedicated crossing time without any turning conflicts. Typically that's 3 to 5 seconds, but we're able to increase that and provide some more crossing time at certain locations if warranted, especially near some of the destinations frequented that are age-friendly. This is a proven tool to improve pedestrian safety and establish their right-of-way in the crosswalk, so we're really happy to be implementing these where we can. The next tool is automatic walk signals. DDOT operates its traffic signals either pre-timed or actuated. So pre-timed, the signal serves every movement, I should say, whether someone's there or not, versus actuated, where we're only serving the side street vehicles and pedestrians if someone is actually there. The benefit under pre-timed operation is the walk signals are displayed every time. There's no need to press a button. So we're providing automatic walk signals in order to reduce the variability for pedestrians, so no one ever misses out on an opportunity to cross. And the last thing I wanted to highlight today was the effort to increase crossing times where feasible. DDOT's pedestrian timings, the flashing to walk intervals, are already all compliant with federal guidelines. However, at intersections that are frequented by older adults that we've identified through our age-friendly analysis, the Signals Division is evaluating increasing the flashing don't walk intervals at those locations, providing more time for pedestrians to complete their crossings and provide some more advanced warning that it's no longer safe to begin crossing if you haven't already. And that increase is on average about 4 seconds at these locations for each crosswalk that we're doing this for. The next thing I wanted to just touch on was the progress we've made under round 2 so far, kind of highlighting what we've done in each network. And this is just a snippet. We've done a lot more, but these are some of the high level things I wanted to touch on. 93 LPIs in network 1 implemented in November 2018, along with 38 new locations with automatic walk signals. And we implemented signal sequence improvements to improve vehicular and pedestrian safety at 14 locations. In network 2 in 2019, 270 LPIs were implemented, new LPIs in addition to the LPIs that are already present at all of these, I should say, as well as 29 new locations with automatic lock signals. And then we also retimed select corridors for bicycle progression where feasible. In network 3, we just implemented over 200 new LPIs this past fall, as well as converted 58 new locations to automatic lock signals. And this was the first time we did our proactive network-wide evaluation of age-friendly locations. So through that, we increased flashing to walk intervals at 97 different locations. And our plan for the fall is to continue this work in Northeast and Capitol Hill, continue evaluating and implementing LPIs and automatic walk signals. But the other big thing is our second effort to proactively identify age-friendly locations and implement those extended crossing times as well. And we're also looking to continue implementing other multimodal signal timing, operational and sequencing improvements, including some more bicycle progression, transit running times, etc. And that's all coming this fall, 2021. With that, that's all I had. I have Anthony Dinkin's contact info up here. Happy if you have any questions or comments, but other than that, thank you for having us today.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Josh. I'm very appreciative of the LPIs as well as the bicycle timing, the green waves. I've seen that in other cities, and I'm a bike commuter, so I'm really excited to see that you're working on more green waves, especially that. Also, the age-friendly, the focus at age-friendly sectors. I appreciate the emphasis, and anything we could do to prioritize pedestrians at the top of the transportation hierarchy, then bicycles and automobiles at the very bottom.
Yeah.
Do any council members have any questions, buddy?
Yes, thank you. Yes, Josh, how was it determined where these 29 new locations with automatic walk signals will be placed?
Sure. So these are actually just the new ones. I should say that already most of the signals in DC operate pre-timed with automatic clock signals. So we're basically evaluating the remaining locations that still have push buttons and evaluating pedestrian volumes and demand at those locations.
But was it determined by the amount of maybe foot traffic in that particular intersection? Or, do you know what specifics, what was specific about those 29 intersections that may not have been specific about 29 other intersections? Do you know?
Sure. Yeah, so it's the foot traffic, the pedestrian volumes that are counted at those locations.
Okay.
The downtown network, I should say, is over, I think, 97%. That's the one I know off the top of my head, where the no push buttons are required. So over 95 or 97% of downtown locations do not require push button activation.
Okay.
And that's all identified through the, like I said, the pedestrian volumes and demand foot traffic at those locations.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Josh. Do we have any other questions from council members? Phil?
Phil Sclover, I do have a question with regard to the audible signals. What are the priorities as to which crossings get audible signals. For example, where there is a left turn, are there a priority to make those crossings audible before others?
One approach we take in the signals teams, any intersections where we are currently making upgrades to or new intersections, we look, we have to make those signals with audible pedestrian signals. So it's like a lot of signals in the city that currently we are aware that don't have them, but as we go along and make improvements to existing signals or introduce new signals, we have to factor that in.
Yeah,
I mean, I just raise this because as visually impaired, it is really a clear and present danger for me. I cannot see, for example, the flashing walk sign. I can probably, with my scant vision, see traffic moving parallel or perpendicular. But when there is that left turn, it is exceptionally dangerous for me to cross the street. And it's only a matter of time. And it's a scary prospect.
Mhm.
So it just seems to me that where there is a danger, if you agree that there is a danger, prioritize those crossings first, but before others.
Thank you. We'll definitely take that into consideration. But again, it goes back to my earlier comment where we have our signals infrastructure, we have over 1,700 signalized intersection. And with the resources we have, can we upgrade all the resources to audible pedestrian signals? Many of them may be considered quote unquote dangerous. I don't like to, you know, play on words, but I just think that we have to approach them as we doing upgrades or as we introducing new signals. So if this is one that really bringing some attention, yes, that's something that we can look at and going forward.
Now, see, my point is that there are certainly hundreds, if not thousands, of signals which have not been audibilized. All I'm saying that within that group, if there is a category which does present a danger of injury to one community, such as the visually impaired, I'm saying that in choosing where to allocate resources, pick that first.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Freya. Also, would it be helpful if we submitted testimony to the DDOT budget hearing, asking for more funds for audible walk signals to make sure that more of the intersections across the city are accessible?
Oh, that always helps. That always helps if we can get that type of support.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. We still don't have a quorum, but I would like to put that on the agenda under new business for later tonight. Consider a resolution to send testimony to include in our DDOT budget testimony, allocate additional funding to audible walk signals and installing these.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks.
Yes.
Agreed.
Mhm. Do we have any questions from the public? Members of the public? Well, we can move on to the next agenda item, which is the Connecticut Avenue Northwest Reversible Lane Study. Is anybody from DDOT here for that?
This is Caesar. Yes, for the Connecticut Avenue project, we have Mr. Stoloff, Cynthia Lynn. And there's Ed. Cynthia is somewhere there.
And
Ed, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Ed, you're on mute. I can't hear you.
How about now? Good?
Yep.
There you
Clear.
go.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Caesar, do you have slides that you're going to put up?
I can put them up. Ms. McGreedy, can I have access to?
Everyone should have access right now. Let me know if you're having an issue though.
I do not. Thank you very much. Please let me know, everybody, if you can see my screen. Ed, let me know if you can see my screen now.
Yes.
We can, yes. Mhm.
I can see your screen, Connecticut. Thank you.
My apologies. This is acting really awkward right now. All right. My computer just acted extremely awkward. I cannot see anybody. Okay, not see anybody. All right, Ed, I'm going on voice command because I cannot see anybody now. I don't know why.
Okay.
I'm gonna initiate sliding show. Let me know.
Great. And Caesar, let me know when you'd like to start.
Oh, whenever you're ready, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for having us here today to give you a little briefing on the Connecticut Avenue Reversible Lane Operations and Safety Study. I'm here today. I'm the project manager, Ed Stoloff, and Cynthia Lynn is here. And Cynthia is the deputy project manager for this project at DDOT. So let's go on to the next slide.
Here we go.
Go ahead.
I apologize. Here we go.
There we are.
All right, we're going to give you a brief project overview, and then Cynthia is going to talk about the alternatives under consideration. So next slide. We started the project about, I don't know, a little over a year ago, well, back basically in December 2019, and we did some data collection and we did analysis, and basically in the summer of 2020, we developed a series of alternatives for the project. So when we started the project, we had three goals. The first goal was to reduce vehicle crashes and to improve safety for all modes. The second goal was to consider a protected bicycle lane. And the third goal was to assess the feasibility of removing the reversible lane operations. We wanted to study the removal of the reversible lane as part of the District of Columbia's Vision Zero initiative, which aims to eliminate traffic deaths and serious injuries by 2024. Next slide. This is our study area. We have a primary and secondary study area. Our primary study area starts at the north. It's the blue area on the map that you see, and it starts at Legation Street. And then at the southern part of the primary study area, it's Calvert Street. So Legation to Calvert Street. We have a secondary study area, which extends from Western Avenue to the north, Massachusetts Avenue to the west, DuPont Circle to the south, and Broad Branch Road and Beach Drive to the west. Next slide. Just to give you a little bit of background, there was a study probably 17 or 18 years ago. It was the 2003 Connecticut Avenue Cleveland Park Traffic Operations Study. and they recommended some improvements to the reversible lanes at that time. Our Move DC update, our 2021 update for Move DC identifies Connecticut Avenue as a bike priority corridor. There was a Cleveland Park bicycle analysis in 2016. And then in 2018, there were 3 ANCs that provided DDOT with resolutions asking us to study the reversible lane system, as well as look at mobility, multimodal mobility in the corridor and accessibility in the corridor. Next slide. We're going to talk a little bit about what's out there today, existing conditions. So Connecticut Avenue, I think, as everyone knows, is a principal arterial. The speed limit is 30 miles per hour. We have a curb-to-curb width of 60 feet, and that includes 6 10-foot lanes today. So that's one of our limiting factors, is the amount of width we have from the curb-to-curb area. In terms of traffic volumes today, about 24,000 vehicles per day are along Connecticut Avenue at about Calvert Street. And we have about 32,000 cars a day right around Porter Street. Just to let you know that during the COVID period, we took some counts in December of 2020, just a couple of months ago. And we found the traffic is down almost 50%. Along the Connecticut Avenue corridor. So the corridor we're looking at is 2.7 miles in length. And as you know, the reversible lanes, when they were operational, they're not operational now. We don't have them operating during the COVID period, but they were 4 lanes going inbound in the morning and 2 lanes going outbound in the morning in the off-peak direction. And then the reverse was true in the evening, where we had 4 lanes going out towards Maryland and 2 lanes going inbound towards DC in the evening. And next slide. We have around 609 spaces, just over 600 spaces in the 2.7 mile corridor. And about half those spaces are unregulated. And what that means is that parking is allowed at any times of the day, except during AM and PM hours where they're restricted. We have about the other half of the spaces, around 300 spaces, are metered spaces, and they're either 2-hour time-limited spaces or we have time-limited paid parking. We have about 24 loading spaces in the 2.7 mile corridor. Next slide. In terms of pedestrians, there is a continuous network of sidewalks and crosswalk and streetscape elements in the corridor. I wanted to just identify 5 key issues that the public has identified so far in the Connecticut Avenue corridor with respect to pedestrians. 1, cyclists, scooters, and pedestrian conflicts exist on sidewalks. There are pedestrian conflicts at bus stops. Slower walkers need more time to cross the street. Long pedestrian wait times. And vehicles not following pedestrian laws. So those are some of the issues that the public has brought up with respect to pedestrians along Connecticut Avenue. Next slide. In terms of bicycles, again, as I said earlier, Connecticut Avenue is designated as a protected bicycle facility in Move DC. We did a number of years ago, DDOT did a bicycle level of stress analysis, and it ranges from fair to poor along the corridor. And the intersections with the greatest bicycle volumes are between Porter Street and Calvert Street Northwest. Next slide. In terms of transit, we have the Metro Rail Red Line, the DC Circulator, and the WMATA Metro Rail Metro Bus routes L1 and L2. The L1 and L2 average daily ridership combined is about 4,300 boardings. There's over 50 bus stops along the corridor on both sides of the street. During the morning, the frequency in the peak hour, peak direction of buses is about, headway is about every 8 minutes. And during the evening, it's about every 4 to 5 minutes. And just a little tidbit for you, VZ Terrace and Connecticut Avenue has the highest level of transit activity. And we show 1,200 boardings and alightings at that intersection at VZ Terrace and Connecticut Avenue. Next slide. In terms of safety, in the last 5 years, between 2015 and 2019, we have had over 1,500 police reported crashes in the corridor. Over 400 of the crashes resulted in injury, and 177 of those crashes occurred during the reversible lane hours. 64 of the crashes involved pedestrians, and 20 of those were during reversible lane hours, and 39 crashes involved bicycles, and 11 of those occurred during reversible hours. We show on the right side of the screen, we show a heat map. That's a map with little bubbles, and it shows either red or yellow, and yellow means high. And so right around Macomb Street, we show a very high level of crashes along the corridor. Another area of high crashes, which this graphic shows, is right around Chevy Chase Parkway and Harrison Street. Next slide. So Cynthia Lynn is now going to describe the two alternatives that appear to be, as we say, rising to the top. And she'll describe the components of those alternatives. Cynthia?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I haven't changed my Zoom background from the last time I used it. Apparently, there was a Christmas tree. So thanks, everyone. I can, next slide, please. We're going to talk about the alternatives. So as part of this, we did use the guiding principles of the project, which we developed at the beginning. So we looked at criteria such as the quality of life, so accommodating those who live, work, and recreate along the corridor. Looking at vision zero and safety, which is the impetus for this study. So helping to reduce the number of crashes and fatalities along the corridor. Looking at traffic operations, opportunities to mitigate significant traffic impacts to the extent feasible when considering a number of different options. Looking at loading and parking and retaining some along the commercial areas along the corridor. Really prioritizing the movement and safety of pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit users along the corridor in our alternatives analysis, and really looking at the 60-foot right-of-way within the curb to curb. So this study scope of work doesn't necessarily look outside of the curb to curb right-of-way beyond the existing roadway for all our alternatives, excuse me. Next slide, please. So as part of our alternatives development, here are just some overview items that we'll quickly summarize. So DDOT did start with 4 build concepts. So concepts A, B, C, and what we're calling DO. And then we also had a no build concept, which is essentially 5 concepts in total. Based on our outreach with stakeholders, we did add a couple more concepts, which we're calling D1, D2, and concept E. What we did find out was that for the no build option for concept A and concept DO, there would be a need to upgrade the overhead signals and signage. So making it more apparent for roadway users where they should be on the road at the peak hours of the day when the reversible lane is in operation. However, we did meet with the State Historic Preservation Office, and they were not necessarily supportive of any overhead signage due to the view shed of Connecticut Avenue. So that just keeping that in mind. In terms of our alternatives, alternative B and C are rising to the top in terms of viability and have the most support so far from different stakeholders. Alternative B, which I'll go over in a moment, does remove the reversible lane, but there is no protected bike facility. Alternative C does include a one-way protected bike lane on both sides of the road and does remove the reversible lane as well. One thing to note is that all alternatives do have an opportunity to improve safety and mobility, including transit operations, including things such as far side bus stop relocations, which we'll talk about. And overall, there is an opportunity to also reduce the speed limit along the corridor from what is 30 miles per hour today to 25 miles per hour. Next slide. So concept B, which is on this slide now, there are two cross sections shown at the top. The first one shows the AM and PM peak periods where the reversible lane would be removed. So during the peak hours, the traffic operations would be 3 northbound lanes and 3 southbound lanes. And then the cross section on the right shows an off-peak period operation where we would show 2 northbound and 2 southbound vehicle travel lanes, and parking and loading would be on both sides of the street. This specific alternative does not include any protected bike lanes, and loading and parking would be allowed only during the off-peak periods and not allowed during peak periods, similar to pre-COVID conditions. Next slide, please. This is just showing a slide with a rendering graphic of what the what the cross section for concept B would look like. It would show 3 travel lanes in each direction, northbound and southbound during the peak period, and then during the off-peak period, parking would be allowed on both sides, reducing travel lanes to 2 northbound and 2 southbound. So this slide is concept C. There are 3 different cross sections that are shown at the top. The main one that I will be talking about is the fact that this concept does remove the reversible lane. So during all periods of the day, which is the first cross section on the left, we are showing 2 northbound and 2 southbound lanes. So this would be during the peak period and during off-peak periods. There would be a protected bike lane on both the east and west side of the street. So it would be around a 4 to 5 foot bike lane with a 2-foot buffer. This does provide opportunities also to have left turn pockets at specific intersections that have higher volumes. So the middle cross section does show an opportunity to have left turn pockets at intersections, and this is done by reducing the travel lane widths and some of the buffers of the bike lane. And then another opportunity would be to have parking only within the commercial areas, and it would be located on one side of the street, and we're working with businesses on trying to figure out which the placement of the parking and loading lanes. And that would be specifically within corridor or sections of the corridor, such as Van Ness, near Tenleytown, near Woodley Park, etc. And then the next slide is showing an illustrative rendering graphic of what this concept C would look like, with 2 lanes in each direction for vehicle travel at all periods. There would be a bike lane on both sides of the street. And then this specific rendering also shows a bus floating island, which helps to reduce the number of conflicts between transit riders, boarding and alighting a bus, and then having to pull curbside and potentially creating conflicts with the bike users in the bike lane. Next slide, please. So we only went through concept B and C, but there are a number of different concepts and their pros and cons that can be looked at on our website, and we can talk about it more during the Q&A if needed. But essentially, we went through an evaluation matrix, and we developed criteria to try to rank all of these alternatives objectively. So we looked at criteria such as traffic safety and operations, bicycle, pedestrian, transit, accessibility and comfort, as well as operations, looking at parking and loading, and constructability and implementation criteria. And all of these criteria were developed in conjunction with prior plans with the District of Columbia. So we looked at MAACDC, the Bicycle Master Plan, Vision Zero, and made sure that these were consistent across the different plans from the past. Next slide, please. And I should also say that in our evaluation matrix, concept B and C were the two that rose to the top, and that's why they also are described in a little bit more detail in this slide deck. So this slide specifically looks at the safety benefits of both concepts B and C. So the first one is that they both do remove the reversible lane. There's an estimated 36% reduction in crashes during the peak hours for both concept B and C, or around 17% reduction in crashes overall during the course of the day. Concept C adds protected bike lanes, which helps to decrease vehicular crashes and protects cyclists mid-block. Concept C also adds turn lanes at selected intersections, which we talked about before, which helps to reduce the number of crashes at potential intersections. There is a removal of parking to provide visibility, and that would help to estimate a reduction of around 20% of crashes. And this is just based on DDOT standards. So that will be kind of done throughout the corridor as part of both B and C concepts. There is an opportunity to add pedestrian refuge islands. So these are little islands across Connecticut Avenue that would allow for pedestrians to walk along the crosswalk and then stop mid-block or stop within the intersection if they need to, and have a little refuge island and kind of go through without any additional conflicts. And that would help to reduce crashes another 26%. And there would also be opportunities for left turn calming treatments with concept B. So these are just some potential safety additions that we can be appending to each of these two concepts. Next slide. And then the next couple of slides, this slide shows for concept B, what I just talked about, like the specific elements and where they would be placed. So we could add elements such as left turn calming treatments for streets that are intersecting with Connecticut Avenue. There are opportunities also to add hawk signals. So that would be like for unsignalized intersections, pedestrians could hit this hawk signal button, and then the vehicle should be coming to a halt at those specific locations, and that would require additional study, but there are opportunities for that. There are also places along the corridor, intersections where we could add things such as no right turn on red, and then analyzing realignments for some locations as well. Next slide, please. Concept C, this slide shows very similar elements where we could be placing things along the corridor, such as specific left turn and right turn lanes, hawk signals like we talked about before, pedestrian refuge islands at specific intersections, and then adding things such as parking clearances to help improve visibility along the corridor as well. Next slide. So as part of this project too, we are not necessarily adding specific bus lanes on the corridor, but there are opportunities for operational improvements. So one of them is really looking at relocating bus stops and consolidating them where we can to both improve operations and then also to provide better headways for buses along the corridor. And so things such as incorporating far side bus stops to help increase pedestrian visibility and helping to reduce conflicts with right turning vehicles. And then there are a number of locations that we've shown on this map where we could be doing that along the corridor from Legation all the way to Calvert Street on Connecticut Avenue. Next slide, please. And then this last slide does show a modal split. So the percentage of people driving, taking Metro Rail, taking buses, taking bicycles. So today, in a no build option and even existing, there are around 61% of people or percent of mode share that are driving along the corridor. There are 30% that are taking Metro Rail, so the Metro Rail, WMATA Metro Rail line. 8% of people are taking WMATA buses along the corridor, and then around 1% of people are biking. In concept B, we're projecting a very similar type of mode split because this specific concept only removes the reversible lane, there would be a similar amount of people probably driving, a slight shift in maybe people taking buses or metro rail, but the amount of people biking would be around the same 1%. But in concept C, where we are adding both a bike lane and removing the reversible lane, there is a shift both in the number of people driving. So it would go to around 50% instead of the 61% today. There would be an increase in both people taking metro rail and taking buses by around 2%. We just included that as a modal shift. And then we did do a bicycle analysis, which showed that there would be a 10-fold increase in people biking overall. So 300 people biking today up to 3,000 potentially with concept C in the future once the bike lane is open. So these are just estimates, but they're something to consider as we move forward with a more multimodal corridor and supporting that. And I think that's all we had. Ed, I can turn it back over to you.
Sure, and thank you, Cynthia. That was great. Let's open it up to some questions. Caesar, you can start, or others, Yep.
Yes, Rob, Buddy Moore, I have a question here. What other streets in the district have the reversible lanes that you are aware of?
There's one, and that was by Georgetown, right by Canal Road, right.
So, and now that particular area, do they plan to change, do they plan to reverse it and go back to the original, or?
Yeah, that's not part of this project.
Okay.
This is just Connecticut Avenue.
Okay.
This is Caesar to answer the question of Mr. Moore. It is a different concept in Connecticut Avenue versus Canal Road.
Okay.
There's more than 2 locations. I had a map on the office that showed the only locations that we have reversible roads. I believe there's more than 2. It's, I believe, 5 or 6. A unique map. That's why I had it. It was done in the 1980s. It's 2 different outtakes. One of them, Canal Road, doesn't have a lot of pedestrians, bicycle. This one is just multimodal interaction all around. So I hope that answers fully.
Yeah, but so the rationale for these reversible lanes when they were, or when it was done many years ago, what was the rationale for, other than to get people in and out of the district?
Well, I would say that's the main rationale. We have Connecticut Avenue has over 30,000 vehicles per day. So basically they needed 4 lanes and they desired 4 lanes to basically funnel that traffic into the downtown. So there's a very heavy commuter emphasis in the corridor, at least pre-COVID. And so, from a capacity standpoint and operation standpoint, they needed that.
Okay.
Phil Sclover, I have a question. What is the rationale? You stated, or someone stated, that there is an increased accidents where you have lane increases for rush hour periods. What is the rationale? Why are accidents increased because of the lane changes?
Sure. I'll start. Maybe Cynthia can finish, and that is that people get confused. We looked at the police report narratives, and what we found is that people were confused by the reversible lanes. They were having trouble making left turns. They were having trouble making U-turns. They didn't see the lane signs, and so there's been a lot of sideswipe and other crashes in the corridor. And so eliminating those reversible lanes would, we believe, eliminate some of those crashes that are occurring today. Cynthia, anything else?
No, but I think you got it. And then also the fact that it's not clear for people driving which lane they should be in, just not having that clarity. And there is signage, but it's just inconsistently put along the corridor. And sometimes just it's older, so people can't read them. So it's just not very clear in some instances.
Another question, and maybe you covered this, but since my vision is poor, I really can't read the screen that well. But these pedestrian refuge islands, what stretch of Connecticut Avenue do you plan to install those, or are you going to install those islands?
Yeah, I would say we showed, I think, just a couple of potential locations, and whatever concept is selected, concept B or concept C, if they are selected, we would then go into more detailed conceptual engineering, more detailed design, and so we could then locate where exactly those pedestrian refuge islands could be.
Okay.
A second question. The first speaker said that there is a conflict between pedestrians, scooters, and bicycles. I assume that is in the high pedestrian density commercial areas. If that conflict does exist, which I believe it does, what is recommended to deal with that conflict?
Well, this was a lot of anecdotal comments by the public. Police really, in the police reports, they really don't report that. But the bicycle lanes would basically get the bicycles and the scooters off the sidewalks, so they would be basically predominantly for pedestrians. So again, today bicycles can ride and scooters can ride on the sidewalks, but with a protected facility, we believe people would choose to use the protected bicycle lane and therefore free the sidewalks for pedestrians.
Is it within your charter to make a recommendation?
Yes, we have we've taken public testimony from at our public meeting that we had on March 31st and April 1st. And we're gathering all of the comments from the public and from the ANCs and from we had a citizens advisory council that looked at the alternatives that we developed. I believe Eileen Eileen's on the phone, and Eileen was on that citizens advisory board. And so we're going to take all of the comments from the public and the ANCs and the Citizen Advisory Council and come up with a DDOT recommendation. We'll present that recommendation at a staff level. We'll present that to DDOT leadership.
What's your timeline for that?
We're hoping to the comment period for the public to respond would end on May 1st. And then we're hoping that right during the month of May or the first couple weeks of June to make that staff level recommendation to our DDOT leadership. So public comment will stop on May 1st.
Will the MAAC be given an opportunity to review your recommendations at some point?
Yes. We won't make a recommendation until we get all the comments from folks. So if the MAAC wanted to prepare a position, we would then be able to take that into account during our deliberations when we present that to our leadership. So if you wanted to take a position on one of the alternatives, either B or C, we would be able to present that to our leadership.
Yes, thank you, Ed. Thank you, Celia. And I have a motion for a recommendation of one of the alternatives. But before that, I want to recognize we have Helen Ogard here. So we have a quorum.
Yeah.
Helen, are you able to speak and vote?
Sure, why not?
That Helen?
Yep,
Great.
that's Helen.
Hello, Helen. Okay.
Yes, thank you. First, I want to hear from any members of the public if you have questions or comments. Go once, go twice. If not, anyhow, I want to recognize that Councilmember Mary J has already supported Alternative C in light of Alternative C being the only option that includes a protected bike lane. And other council members here have expressed concerns about scooters and bicycles at the sidewalk and how little space we currently have at the sidewalk. That's why I think the protected bike lane will be very helpful in getting scooters and bikes off the sidewalk. Also, one of the advisory neighborhood commissions here recently passed a resolution supporting Alternative C for the same reason. And so with that consideration, I would like to make a motion that I volunteer to write a letter to the DDoS staff here expressing the MAAC support for Alternative C.
Second.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay.
Do we have any discussion at that motion before we take a vote?
Let's vote.
Okay, we're ready for a vote. If you support, please say aye.
Aye.
Yay.
Okay, I too. Okay, Barb, that's unanimous. Yay! Thank you.
Yay.
Yes, so I understand that the deadline is May 1st, and I'll send the letter to you, Ed. Okay, thank you, Ed.
Thank you for
Thank you,
having
everyone.
us. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Cynthia.
All right, we're leaving.
Okay, have a good night.
Share dueling, permission to speak.
Yes, go ahead.
I do want to point out that now that you have quorum, you did have a optional motion for a letter to allocate additional funding for APS. You had that on the table. Now that you have quorum, you can vote on that as well. Just wanted to point that out for the team.
Yes, I'm thinking about the entire timeline because these budget hearings will be in May, early May, correct? And there are many recommendations that we may want to make in the DDOT budget, including Vision Zero, additional funding for Vision Zero especially. I'm wondering if our May meeting gives us enough time to discuss this with the chair before we make a recommendation for all of fiscal year 2022. Do you have the date of the budget hearing?
I do not have the date of the budget hearing. If I'm not mistaken, it's around May 13, around that. I apologize.
It's okay.
Now, you do have time because usually the request for budget happens on the end of fiscal year, which is construction year. What we call the construction fiscal year is September 30th. That's when the allocation for funding starts. So we're not looking at FY22 anymore. We're looking at FY23 for allocation funding, which is 1 year ahead. So the obligation and allocation request for allocation happened already in October, and it's in the process. And basically now it goes into the budget hearing. Hey, this is what we propose to do for FY22, and they will approve. So your next chance of allocating for APS or recommending for allocation on APS will be October 1st, fiscal year 23. If it makes sense. Does it make sense? Do you need any clarity?
That makes sense to me.
So you got time to vote on it, but at the same time, if you're gonna produce any letters, it will go into fiscal year 23 allocation, which, believe it or not, is right around the corner for us mentally. So
I still, the May 13th or so budget hearing is still a valuable opportunity for us to provide our input as a council at the DDOT budget. So seeing as this is maybe the last MAAC meeting before we have an opportunity, I would like to make a motion, but I'm thinking about who may be able to testify. I know our chair, Heidi Case, usually goes to these hearings to testify. I'm still wondering if she will be available on May 13th. Again, we may have another MAAC meeting before then, or we could simply pass a more general recommendation, a motion for Chair Case to represent us at that May 13th hearing and circulate draft testimony among the members of this council via email, which has worked pretty well in the past. That general testimony, we could vote tonight that we agree on a general testimony of long-term support for APS and Vision Zero. And are there any other items we should think about supporting? I would love to hear from members of the public and this.
Rob, this is Eileen McCarthy. Can I say a couple things?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So I'm gonna try to start my video so you can see me in the dark. So I wanted to say a couple of things. One is that you could ask for funding of the Vision Zero Enhancement Omnibus Act, the bill that was passed last year. Support funding for that. And then the other thing is just that you can't, as Caesar said, you can't have influence on the mayor's budget requests at this point, but you can, recommend that the council put in extra money for APS. You probably would have more success with that if you tell them where to take the money from, like don't fund A, fund APS signals instead. So that's just something to think about.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, Eileen. To help me understand better, we would have to move from something else in the DDOT budget to support more EPS.
It's the best way. You don't have to, but it's more likely you would be successful if you told them, don't spend so much money making filling potholes. Move that money over to putting in APS. That you don't have to say potholes, but you get the idea.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yes. Thanks, Eileen. I like that.
Yeah.
We can do that. We can.
It could be it could be something else too.
Sure.
It's just, it's hard to change the budget at this point. So if you give them an idea of where they could take the money from.
Could we make a general statement of support for funding APS?
Sure.
Yes, we can.
So the Vision Zero Omnibus Act and APS, anything else?
Not from me.
Yeah, from council members, the public. If I need our chair, but if nothing else, I'm ready to make a motion that we authorize any member of this council to represent the MAAC in the DDOT budget hearing, asking for funding for the Vision Zero Omnibus Act and additional audible pedestrian signals.
Okay, I'll second. Motion.
Could you read back that motion?
Yeah, I'll second it. Whatever.
Yes. The motion is that we authorize any member of this council to represent the MAAC in the May 13th DDOT budget hearing and express our support for funding the Vision Zero Omnibus Act and additional audible pedestrian signals.
Yes.
Thank you, Rob.
Yes, I'll second.
Yes, thank you for your support. Do we have any discussion before a vote? No? Okay, we're ready to vote.
Yes.
If you support, say aye.
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 Aye, it's unanimous. Yay!
Great. Okay.
Phil Sclover, I'd like to make a motion on the audible pedestrian signal issue. My motion states that the MAAC recommends that DDOT prioritize the placement of audible pedestrian signals at those intersections where there exists left turn where there exists left turn signals.
Well, Phil, you know I'm going to second that because you and I have vision problems. So again, I'm going to second your motion. Absolutely.
Good. It helps people who can see too.
That's right. I'm going to second it.
Thank you. Thank you for the second. For a discussion, I would like to hear from Steve.
Yes, the basis of my motion is that I detected in the discussion that there may not be awareness to the level that I thought appropriate that there exists this priority. In my view of all these situations, there exists the highest degree of potential injury to the visually impaired when they cannot physically read the signs which say walk, which those who have vision can see. And if within the existing budget, I am merely recommending that the MAAC go on record saying that a priority should be given to that particular situation.
Yes, I support Phil in that effort, especially at the intersection of Wisconsin and Albemarle, where I have a terrible time trying to cross Wisconsin Avenue to get to the other side, because when the sun is up in at a certain angle, I don't know whether the sign says walk or not. So I support Phil in his effort. Yes.
Yeah, I agree, but it's not just that intersection. It's every intersection where you have those left turn dedicated walk signals. I mean, I, for example, know that intersection well, but when I travel to other parts of the city, it's even more dangerous because I don't know what the context is in those areas. So all I'm saying is that given the pot of money, I'm not suggesting more funds be appropriated. I don't know, but within that pot of money, they parcel it out first to where the need exists. And I believe that a definite need exists in the situation I and Buddy just outlined.
Thank you, Freya. Before we vote on that motion, I want to hear from Caesar, if possible, on how DDOT currently prioritizes intersections for new installation of APS.
All right. This is I will try to make this a short summary, but in reality, there's no way to have a short summary regarding prioritization schema and combination in relation to APS devices. The key concern here is public requests. Let's put it this, let me just state out this. If we have a public request, we will try to implement a design, or we will analyze the location first. We will analyze the intersection and make a design, a survey, a design, and we'll implement a full modification if necessary, which is the worst case scenario, which is the scenario of the Wisconsin and Albemarle as used as a sample. We already investigated the site. We already analyzed the site. We need a full mod. We don't have the proper conduit. Currently, we don't have the conduit under the system. So basically, we got to change the conduit in order to energize any APS device that we're going to implement. So that's basically, this location is taking the long route because we don't have we will need to redesign all the conduits. So it takes a while. It's been taking a while for that reason. But mostly what we do, other than public requests, we look at the location and we also look at the condition. So use and condition are kind of like the biggest items and topics of integrating for us to implement APS. I also want to point out that any project delivery style project also includes APS devices. Examples of Florida Avenue bike lane or the Florida Avenue project that is about to come out, Florida and New York, any project delivery style will implement APS devices. So most of our implements already include APS devices.
Okay.
The part that doesn't include is our maintenance. Our maintenance projects do not include because they're more in and out. As they modify the asphalt, they modify the sidewalk, the concrete, and they head out. Which are the biggest budgeted items in our project, in our department. Sorry, but my understanding is that we do address APS devices. I wish we could address it better with more money. So the letter of consent from the MAAC stating that there will be more money on APS, like it was mentioned before, and Mr. Dinkins agreed, is a good step to see if we can get more funding under that end.
Okay.
So that's my suggestion. But as I mentioned, it's not planners and analysis and investigations from federal standpoint. They haven't seen a correlation of accidents with the left turning vehicles to the way that it is a safety concern, but it hasn't been a impacting safety concern. And I'm not stating it's not a safety concern. It's just, they haven't found the correlation of left turning vehicles with pedestrian incidents or pedestrian vehicle collisions or crashes. Okay. So, however, this is a concern. We're looking, I understand what Mr. Clover is saying, and it's something that can bring to the attention to DDOT that we can set up in a way a prioritization schema with that interest, which is what the ADA transition plan does. Mm-hmm. If Mr. Clover has that concern, I'm able to, not even with a letter, just bring it to my ADA transition plan concept and make sure that it has a higher attribute or a higher condition usage ranking, as in now left turning, any location that we have a left turning intersection, I'll put a higher networking priority, as in, instead of being a medium priority, now it'll be a high priority. That's not the way that we prioritize, but I'm just shortening it up and it's simples.
Okay.
I hope I explained.
Phil Sclover.
Yeah.
It just seems to me absolutely intuitive that if the sighted community can see a walking sign, which the visually impaired cannot, then there is a danger because those with visual impairments are going to walk, which at times when it is dangerous because of oncoming traffic. I don't particularly care if that point is made in a motion or by you in some other manner, that there be an internal priority, which I detected was not going to be done. At least that was what I took from the presentation earlier. All I would like to see is that there be this awareness that where the sighted community can see a walk sign, there be some measure of parity instituted for the visually impaired community so we can be on an equal safety playing field. And I don't really, I mean, it seems to be quite apparent to me.
And we're not in disagreement with you. Basically what I'm stating here. Sorry, Rob, I'm stepping in really quick. We're stating we're not in disagreement with you, Mr. Slover. We're stating that, yes, we want to get more funding. That's basically the statement Mr. Dinkins said. If you want to support it, we go ahead. I believe Rachel or Eileen mentioned New York got sued on APS. New York got sued on APS. Maryland got sued on APS. Boston is getting sued on APS devices. Boston is getting sued on wheelchairs, actually.
Yeah, I'm not talking about
no, but
I'm saying within the present funding, prioritize that situation.
If that's what you want, I'll make sure to implement it into my ADA transition plan.
Thank you, Caesar and Freya. I see value in our council in the long term expressing support for the funding that we need to make this possible. I also see value in the short term, our council asking to prioritize the way Freya asked, and that's why I would vote to support this motion. Do we have any other discussion before we vote? Heather, vote?
So this may not be pertinent here because it's not around whether to vote pro or con, which is not my role, but there seems to be a disconnect between the way the engineering process measures need relating to accident correlation and the way that Commissioner Sclover is presenting need, which is the experience of visually impaired people at signals with a left turn, so arrow. And so I understand Cesar's remedy here, but I think that still leaves an issue to be addressed on how a particular intersection is prioritized by DDOT. Because Cesar is presenting a fix, which is helpful, but it still doesn't answer the core question of why this issue is not one criteria for making decisions around what is a dangerous intersection.
Thank you, Heather. I imagine that if APS receives more funding, we would be able to have more discussions in this council about how we could prioritize and what factors we could use to prioritize. Any more discussion? I'm ready to vote. Say aye if you support or nay.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. So that would be the form of a letter that I can write to the judge and circulate among the council members by email to make sure we have the wording right, especially Phil. I'll be in touch with you soon.
Okay.
The only other two items at the agenda are the budget update, which I think we should postpone to May. I make a motion to table the budget discussion until May. Anybody second?
Someone can second. Phil, you want to second it?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, thanks, Phil.
Discussion? Any discussion? Vote? Okay, vote time. Aye.
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 There we go. The last item at the agenda is the spin scooter discussion, but we don't have anybody for spin here.
Okay.
So this is Caesar. So I'm just going to do a short summary.
Okay.
The intent is to have a small discussion or basically let you aware as the DDOT designee that I received a email from Mr. Alexander Davis. He is kind of like the community engagement personnel from SPIN, which is one of the scooters and bicycle mobilities in the district that works in the district. And they would like to meet with the MAAC and of course the Age-Friendly DC initiative in separation regarding some inclusion strategies that they have. In short summary, to summarize, they would like to present, they would like to talk and present and discuss with the MAAC some inclusion items or equipment that they would like to bring to the district to make sure that older adults and persons with disabilities can use the electrical scooters and bikes. The understanding behind it is that the current understanding behind it is that these equipments are weight over 60 pounds. The current legislation, because of the weight, does not allow these devices to operate in the district. So they would like to reach out to the MAAC to see if they can join forces, I'm guessing, regarding this legislation and the inclusion of these devices in order for persons with disabilities and older adults to use them. It's kind of like having adaptive bikes or modified bikes or scooters in order for persons with disabilities and older adults to use them. So the intent is to have give you this narrative, give you a heads up that they reach out to me. I pointed out to Ms. Case, and they would like to join the next meeting.
Sure.
I applaud that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. That sounds very promising and exciting, and I would love to try again to invite them to next month's meeting.
Oh yeah, the invitation was extended for the next meeting because we were expecting to take a long time with the Connecticut Avenue design, but short time on it, which is kind of unique. So the intent is for them to join us on the next meeting, but let you aware of that email. That was the initial priority today for today.
Yeah.
Let you aware of this email received. I forwarded to Share Case. I want to send it to the team, to the council, to make sure and let them aware what was we receiving, the people that were trying to get your attention.
Okay, great.
Fine that they got that they've received our attention, and we favorably look upon their attendance.
I really appreciate all you do, Caesar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate you doing it too.
As many people know, Vivian Guerra left DDOT, so she is working with the Office of Planning. So
Oh,
and along with the direction of Nana, so we're one person down.
okay.
I believe that vacancy is available right now. There's a job opening for it, so I think apply just in case.
Okay, great.
But
Well,
other than
Vivian,
that,
okay.
just trying to do the best.
I want to make sure I understood Linda Bailey. She left.
Nana Bailey Thomas. Nana Bailey joins our meetings.
Okay.
DDOT designee as well.
Okay. Thanks for letting us know. We're
But-
open.
Yeah, just in case, the person that left was Vivian Guerra. Vivian left, and now it's me and Nana right now.
Understood. Yeah. We're open to public comment. If anybody else would like to bring up any other issues.
I second.
Okay, great.
Anyway, I'm here. Somewhere.
Thanks, Helen.
If we don't have anything else from anybody else in this meeting, I am ready to make a motion to adjourn. Last call for public comment. Nothing?
I second it.
Okay, great.
Have a good evening.
I moved to adjourn the meeting.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
That's right.
Yes,
Aye.
we do need to vote on that.